let us be the one to say that we do not accept a child dying every 3 seconds simply because he or she does not have access to medicine and drugs that you and I have access to. This powerful quote was made by Brad Pitt, Hollywood A-lister, as well as human activist. And this ties in extremely strongly into Mindset Foundation's Access Our Medicine initiative, that the premise that they want to tackle. My team today, Naval Consulting, we are very pleased and honored to be able to address this Mindset Foundation AOM initiative. And my team consists of Jeremy, Jin, as well as myself, Rob. First up, a short executive summary onto the case. We have identified AOM's ultimate goal to be that to encourage stakeholders to come together and make medicine more affordable and more accessible. Our intermediate aim is slightly more ambitious than that in the case. We want to achieve 1.2 million signatures by next year, 2016. Some of the business challenges that we have identified is that of a budget constraint. We have to understand a huge amount of data, as well as how do we actually increase the growth rate of signatures. With our business strategy of EE, examine, execute, as well as extend, we are sure you will be able to achieve the intermediate goal of 1.2 million signatures by 2016. The brief analysis of the key challenges that we have come up with. When we talk about budget constraints, it has been laid out very clearly that there are $500,000 worth that we can tap onto. And this means that we have to be very careful in terms of the choice of ventures that we're going to. There must be very strong trade-off in terms of benefits and return on assets on any amount that we spend.
Do you mind jumping to your budget and just showing us where the $500,000 or whatever your target budget will be spent? Or explaining it if you don't want to jump to the slide.
Sure, but this is actually a core part of the presentation as we go. Do you want to see how much we spend?
Yeah, if you could just at very high level describe how the budget is.
Out of $500,000, in a good situation, you will only be spending $215,000 on our solution, and in a higher end with a poorer uptake, you will be spending only about half of what you're offering right now of the budget, $250,000. So before we actually move into the business strategy of EE, I would like to emphasize that there is a triangle of factors that are crucial to a successful campaign that we want to raise awareness for. And those are what, who, as well as how. When we talk about what, we have identified that AOM has already very strongly determined what their message is. However, in terms of who do you want to target, as well as how do you want to target this audience, it's kind of foggy, and we are here to help you find an answer for that. There are certain importances, there are very strong importances in terms of why we actually need to tie down very strongly the what, who, and how of a campaign. Taking for example, World Hepatitis Alliance, what they actually did is they wanted to spread awareness for Hepatitis Day. They did it through a very innovative way. They incorporated themes of the three monkeys, see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. And they also used traditional media together with social media, because they know that hepatitis actually affects a large part of Africa. By understanding who they are targeting, which is globally, but Africa as well, they have known that there are certain shortcomings when you want to cater to the rural areas, so they actually use the SMS blast, which is much more effective compared to just using Twitter. In fact, by having a clear understanding and definition of who, what, and how they want to tackle, they have been awarded the McCann Complete Medical Award for Innovation in Healthcare, which actually rewards very innovative campaigning efforts. Perhaps more significant is actually the very high conversion rate of 25% in terms of signatures just from the SMS blast alone. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the 3E strategy: examine, execute, and to extend. When we talk about examine, we want to find out who we want to target. When we talk about execute, we want to find out how we're actually going to target these people that we have identified. And lastly, beyond 2016, how do we actually extend our reach beyond 1.2 million signatures?
So in our first phase, which is what we want to examine, is the data set that we already have, as well as the information that we have already gathered. Because for us, we want to set a target of 2 months to come in place and then understand what are the data that we already have and what we are currently missing. So in order to do so, we do a descriptive analytics on the current data set to understand what we can know from and the insights that we can derive from the data alone. Out of which there are 3 very significant insights that we want to bring out to you. Is that first of all, 81% of the contributors are English-speaking from English-speaking countries, and which to us it means that there are many opportunities in other countries with many different native languages, like for example Chinese in China or like Spanish in Mexico. Secondly, we also realize that the campaign affects regional countries, meaning to say it spreads within the region, and in our case, it's the North American region. Next, we have Mexico. Mexico to us has the best conversion rate of 43% for the email engagement in the Change.org initiative. So based on these insights and what we have gained, we believe that it's aligned with the bowling alley strategy that we have, the principle of that we need to move towards the geographical strategy of pushing through Canada, USA, Mexico, and to the rest of the world.
Excuse me. On the demographics, from what we saw from the previous year, the age group tended to be the 40 plus, given the use of the system. Within your demographic going forward, do you have a plan on how to drive that lower to get uptake in the millennial generation?
Right. So right now, because what we believe in is that like for the millennial and as well as the older age group that has more significant in terms of interaction with this kind of affordable medicine problems, they should be categorized as within a region first, because we see the problem more of within the developing countries on whole. So what we want to push through is to spread it out. Being a global kind of a mission, we have to push to more people in the global region to establish this awareness first before we decide upon like where should we cut and how do we drive towards the millennial age group. Yeah, so based on this, we also want to improve further on, and how do we improve this bowling alley strategy is that we identify additional analyses that are currently missing and possible analyses that can add on and help us to further improve this bowling alley strategy. First of all is the sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis will help us identify micro trends. Based on what we see in the data, in April 2014, as well as in October 2014, there are many campaigns, the campaigns that AOM has run has bring in many of these signatures, and we believe that by identifying these sentiments on the net, through Twitter, through Facebook, we will be able to tag on and create more signatures in this particular campaign. The next important
Just
one...
one sec. Can you explain a little bit more detail how sentiment analysis is going to help identify microtrends, what that means? So
for identifying micro trends, what happened in the Twitter setting is that like we use a basically dictionary method. We want to see we categorize tweets based on positive, negative, and neutral. So if let's say we have an emerging need in particular, like for example medicine coming up, we want something like affordable medicine in Mexico emerging through tweets. We analyze that there's negative tweets coming up from there. We can immediately go in and tackle this in a localized manner. So this sentiment analysis.
Sorry, I'm not following. Negative tweets that indicate what?
That indicates that they are unhappy with like the medicine itself being very expensive. Yeah. And so in like one of the case that we realized is that in China, what they have in terms of like the medicine is that they really think that medicines are really expensive and doctors are the billions. So in this manner, we know where exactly are the height that we can go in, and then with that passion, they will be the ones that will drive in and be the champions for our cause. Yeah. For the next one, social network analysis. This is really important for us because we want to identify the opinion leaders as well as the influencers that can champion this as affordable medicine. What we want to do is that the current community engagement program, we want to make it effective. We want to make sure that we can cross geographical boundaries. With these influential people, as well as these opinion leaders, we will be able to customize our community engagement towards them to make them the champions as well as those these influencers to spread it more and even further into the different regions as well as across the boundaries.
No, I don't understand how you go from your volleyball strategy, which seems to be going from one country to this type of analysis. How does the analogy cross over?
So within this region, what happens in a social network analysis is that, like for example, in Canada, you will want someone that has probably like relation between Canada and USA and has been traveling back and forth or might be influential within these two countries to be able to spread across this campaign towards that country. So with this, identifying these influencers, influencer, as well as like those that are able to transfer these opinions over, they can be possibly the ones that will help us champion and as well as to spread the message across to the country itself.
And how do you plan on identifying these influencers?
In a way, what we want to do is to look at how people are communicating, especially from these 1,200 followers as well as these 800 followers on AOM's Facebook and Twitter accounts themselves first. So from there, we look at their friends, their group, their social network group, the communicating group, as well as the messages, the replies, and the communicating in terms of what are they talking about. Yes.
Is it a fair summary that your strategy is to make some website improvements, including localization in new languages, and then drive traffic to the website using an SMS and social media strategy? Is there a reason that you've not included the paid for signatures that have driven over 80% of the signatures so far?
Tied to this case and applicable to this case is because we have identified Mexico as the primary target to move into in the near future. And in Mexico, as we will explain later on, Mexico there is actually a huge penetration rate in terms of the mobile penetration rate. In terms of internet, they only currently have about 22% penetration rate. We will show these numbers again later. But the idea is that using an SMS Blast we will be able to reach out to a larger audience in Mexico first. Yeah. And also SMS Blast is much cheaper, as we will show later.
So if you're using SMS and internet connectivity is so low, how are you going to convert those SMS blasts to signatures?
Yeah. So it's also what we will talk about later on. But what we want to do is actually work very closely. Maybe I'll just skip forward to that slide. So what we actually want to do is to work with Telmex, who currently has a 90% foothold in the mobile market share, in the mobile market of Mexico. And the idea of this is we want to attack a small percentage. We want to work with Telmex to ensure that we get a small percentage conversion from the large amount of people that they are actually in contact with in terms of SMSs. So our assumption is actually in terms of the Telmex customers right now, in a good case, we will say they currently have about 43 million customers. We say maybe we're going to send out SMSs to 10% of that, which is about 4 million, at a cost of about 4 cents per SMS and a conversion rate, a relatively low conversion rate of 10%. Remember, World Hepatitis case, they had a conversion rate of 25%. We believe maybe we are not as successful as that. We're going to go less than half of the conversion rate. We can actually have an increase in signatures of up to 433,000. This is the assumption behind why SMS is actually cheap and actually really effective in Mexico itself.
Would it be fair to say that other methods such as email are going to be dramatically less expensive or sends SMS?
For the email part, already there's a proven track. They already tried the email campaign and there's already a sign up. And let's talk about, we wanted to actually reach the lower echelon, which are people in the urban area who are really the one that will be impacted by this movement for affordable medicine. which is why we believe that this SMS, as proven in the Africa case, is the best way for us to now reach even a wider audience that do not have either internet access or even not technologically savvy. But with the SMS, it allows them at least to participate and make their voice heard in this AOM movement. Hence, we believe SMS with this price is one of the best ways that we believe you should concentrate the effort for the next 1 year to drive up your conversion rate to reach our 1.2 million signatures by the day.
Are there any privacy security implications that World Hepatitis Alliance had to fight through? If I'm understanding properly, your intention is to send a text to 43% of the population of Mexico.
Yes.
No, the penetration rate of the mobile penetration rate is at 43%. That means out of the 100% of population, 43% of them currently own a mobile phone. And out of this 43% of the population, Telmex caters to 90% of this. Yeah.
So you're going to send a text to 10% of Telmex's customers?
Yes.
Okay. And is Telmex advertising that as a service for us to purchase? Or is that something to negotiate? Is there a privacy? In Canada, I can't imagine that would fly with local privacy laws.
So for us, what we believe is that we want to go to Telmex and show that we want them to help us in this social movement because we believe CSR is one area that they can help them to elevate their reputation. So whether is it a business package or whether it's a collaboration, we will want to incline more towards the collaboration with Telmex because it helps us to bring down our price. And this 4 cents as talked about was actually a commercial rate that they charge. If they could charge us a lower rate, that would be awesome. With respect to your privacy and your concerns, definitely there is one area we can't say for sure that the hepatitis had this issue. It wasn't mentioned, but we believe it is still a concern. We cannot ignore that. That is why we need to work with Telmex and establish a very good working relationship and thorough understanding of the rule and regulation before we jump into this. But again, we believe it is still a very viable option.
Excuse me, can you share with us what is the risk analysis and the mitigations for this entire plan?
So for, again, this slide on what say our plan is awesome. And as with any awesome plan, there must be some shortfall and we do acknowledge that. So we created this, right? Some key risks that we believe. So one of them is the over-analyzing of data. We believe there are so much data now, we do not know, we might want to over-analyze and come up with wrong things. The other one is Telmex rising the SMS price. They want to sell us, it's a good business opportunity, make money. So that's one area that we might think. And the other big risk we believe is, if you adopt our strategy, it is so efficient, it might even cripple your own system because of the overwhelming response. So, for mitigation, we believe, first, for your analytics, ensure that your business and your analytics are aligned before you jump into it, because from there, you will know what data you need to analyze and what do you want to derive from. As for the Telmex part, pricing, we may not be able to control, but nothing is stopping us from working with them to have good relationship. And in terms of reliability, if they cannot provide us the reliability, there is not only one Telmex in Mexico. There are others that we can approach. So there are options out there, but naturally we want to partner with the best. And lastly, regarding overwhelming response, this is when we believe data analytics is very useful. The proper data analytics will help you to forecast the demand. You can foresee the spike, and you can do the relevant action beforehand to ensure that your system is not crippled, because that can really tarnish all the effort that you want to strive.
It's not the number one risk that we've overstated the likelihood that SMS will be effective.
So, sorry, sir.
Isn't the number one risk that we've overstated how effective SMS will be in one country? What if it is not as successful? What if the conversion rate is like 1% instead of 10%?
Yes, which is why we believe that when we run this 1 year, which is part of also what the fast-fail approach, we want to use Mexico as a test bed. Okay, because we have already done a campaign that we know what they behave, how they behave, and we have some degree of success. So which is why we believe that even though it may be overhyped or we may overemphasize, but we believe SMS is really one of the key areas that we can go to in order to ensure that we can get the success we want.
Our goal is to land within a year though, so fast fail is not a year. That's just fail up.
Is that time?
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.